It's August 13th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with President Yoon Suk-yeol's reshuffle of his security officials. President Yoon on Monday named Presidential Security Service Chief Kim Yong-hyun as the new defense minister, and the country's defense minister Won-sik as a new national security advisor, a move that reflects Yoon's plan to put more focus on security over diplomacy. Iran is reportedly poised to attack Israel in the coming days to retaliate for the killing of a Hamas leader. The U.S. and Western countries are bracing for the imminent show of force and are calling on Iran to stand down its threats. Ukraine's top military commander says his forces are now in control of 1,000 square kilometers of Russia's neighboring Kursk region. Russian leader Vladimir Putin insisted Ukraine's attack on Russia is aimed at improving Kyiv's negotiating position and warned his country will deliver a worthy response. President Yoon Suk-yeol has named his chief bodyguard Kim Yong-hyun as the new defense minister, and the current defense minister Won-sik to take on the national security advisor role. Our presidential office correspondent Kim Do-yeon starts us off.
A major reshuffle of the nation's top security officials. First, President Yoon Suk-yeol on Monday nominated a new national defense minister, Kim Yong-hyun, the current Presidential Security Service chief, who has been right by the president's side for the past 3 years and is well trusted.
Kim has been chosen as the perfect fit for National Defense Minister, as he is the president's first chief of Presidential Security Service and understands the intentions of the commander-in-chief better than anyone.
Before becoming the head of the Presidential Security Service, Kim was a 3-star general who commanded major forces in the ROK Army. He came into spotlight at first as he led the process of moving the presidential office from Cheongwade, or the Blue House, to the current Yongsan presidential office when Yoon was first elected.
Security is, in fact, the economy. If I am appointed as the Minister of National Defense, I will follow the Commander-in-Chief's direction and build a strong defense system based on strong power. This will help not only to grow the national economy, but also to ensure the stability of people's daily lives.
Meanwhile, the current defense minister Won-sik will become the president's new national security advisor. The former lawmaker and a 3-star general has been defense minister since October last year.
He has extensive field experience and deep insight in the field of defense and security. As the current Minister of National Defense, he has a high level of understanding of the pressing security issues, making him the right person to assist the president and take responsibility for national security without any gaps.
It's also notable that Shin will become Yoon's first national security advisor with a military background. There's been 3 so far. The first was a scholar in international relations, while the second and third were career diplomats. This could signify a shift in the focus of the national security policy, with the top office putting more weight on security than diplomacy due to growing security concerns around the world. Meanwhile, the current National Security Advisor Jang will become a new special advisor to the president for foreign affairs and national security. This new role was established with the need for someone who can travel around the world on behalf of the South Korean government to address emerging issues and respond to the rapidly changing global environment. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
President Yoon Suk-yeol held an official meeting with former President Lee Myung-bak for the first time since taking office to seek his advice on leading state affairs. According to the presidential office, Yoon and First Lady Kim Gun-hee invited Lee and his wife to their residence for dinner on Monday evening. They were joined by Yoon's chief of staff, who formerly served as Lee's senior secretary for political affairs. Yoon noted how Lee had won South Korea's first export contract for nuclear reactors to the UAE in 2009, saying it had paved the way for Seoul's bid to build a nuclear power plant in the Czech Republic. The former leader lauded Yoon for the successful tender, calling it a great achievement. Remarking on domestic politics, Lee said the government and ruling party must act as one and also called for policies to promote cooperation between conglomerates and small businesses. The White House said the Iranian retaliation against Israel after the assassination of Hamas's political leader seems imminent. U.S. President Joe Biden, along with Western leaders, issued a statement calling Iran to stand down. Our Kim Jong-soo reports.
The White House says a potential Iranian attack on Israel could come anytime soon.
We share the same concerns and expectations that our Israeli counterparts have with respect to potential timing here. Could be this week. We're continuing to watch it very, very closely.
The White House official added that the U.S. and Israel have to be prepared for what could be a significant set of attacks. Multiple media outlets reported on Tuesday that the U.S. has sent a guided missile submarine to the Middle East as tensions grow in the region. Fox News, quoting regional sources, said Iran and its proxies could attack Israel within the next 24 hours in retaliation for the killing of Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran late last month. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps spokesperson Ali Mohammad Naini reportedly said on Sunday that the assassination of Haniyeh was a blatant violation of the United Nations Charter and warned to retaliate at the appropriate time. The Israeli military said it's at peak readiness against Iran and that it has broad attack plans and is highly prepared for execution. Meanwhile, Western leaders issued a joint statement on Monday local time calling for Iran to stand down. U.S. President Joe Biden and the leaders of France, Germany, Italy, and the UK called on Iran to stand down its ongoing threats of a military attack against Israel and discussed the serious consequences for regional security should such an attack take place. The heightened geopolitical tensions in the Middle East have driven up oil prices. U.S. crude oil futures climbed above $80 a barrel on Monday local time. West Texas Intermediate crude oil increased by 4.2% from the previous day's close, reaching $80.06 per barrel. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Ukraine continues to push ahead with its incursion into Russia, now claiming to have taken control of over 1,000 square kilometers of Russia's Kursk region. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered his forces to take appropriate measures against Kyiv. Lee Seung-jae has more.
On the seventh day of Ukraine's incursion into Russian territory, Kyiv's top military commander, General Alexander Syrskyi, said Monday that his forces have now taken control of over 1,000 square kilometers of the Kursk region. That's an area 1.5 times larger than South Korea's capital, Seoul. According to acting Kursk governor Alexei Smirnov, Ukraine has taken control of 28 villages. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky posted a video on social media platform X saying that he has ordered the military to establish a humanitarian plan within the operational area while seeking a strategy for returning prisoners of war. He's also seeking to obtain permission from the West to use long-range weapons. As Ukraine continues to push ahead in its offensive inside Russian territory, Russian President Vladimir Putin presided over an operational meeting on Monday. According to Russia's TASS News, the Russian leader instructed his forces to drive the Ukrainian military out of its territory and ensure stable border security. Putin also claimed that Kyiv launched attacks on the mainland to gain an advantage in future peace negotiations, while destabilizing Russian society. He slammed Ukraine for its provocation that resulted in many casualties and vowed to respond appropriately. Concerns are also rising that the natural gas transport routes to Europe will be blocked due to the Ukrainian offensives in the border areas of Russia's mainland, where its natural gas facilities are located. Natural gas produced in Siberia is exported mainly to countries like Slovakia, Hungary, and Austria through a pipeline located in the Kursk region. Last year, half of all Russian natural gas exports to Europe were supplied through this pipeline. Europe experienced a temporary energy crisis when the Nord Stream gas pipeline exploded in September 2022, allegedly due to sabotage. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump is back posting on X ahead of his interview with the social media platform's owner, Elon Musk. With his interview with Musk taking place Tuesday morning Korea time, Trump uploaded 3 campaign videos highlighting his vision for the U.S. He also took X to slam his opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, who he called San Francisco radical Kamala Harris. His last post before Monday's return to the social media platform was back in August last year, where he touted his mugshot with the caption, "Election interference, never surrender." The former president had been posting through Truth Social, a social media site that he owned before his return to X. For the first time in the election race, Harris has polled ahead of Trump on the economy, according to new polls. Harris's lead also comes out of the Democratic National Convention set to take place next week. For more, we are joined by Chris Keskehill from VOA. Welcome back, Chris.
Good to be with you.
Thanks for joining us. So, new polls indicate Harris is more trusted than Trump in terms of the U.S. economy. Isn't this the first time the Democratic Party is taking a lead in this field?
Yes, this is the first time in about a year that the University of Michigan and Financial Times in London have been tracking voter sentiment. And it's the first time in a year that the Democratic candidate has led on the issue of the economy. Now, the numbers are that 42% of voters said they trusted Harris more to handle the economy compared with 41% who say Trump is better on handling the economy. While Trump's numbers were unchanged from last month, Harris's numbers are a 7% improvement over President Biden's numbers from July before he dropped out of the race. Now, Americans still cite inflation as their biggest concern going into the November election, and the survey showed only 19% of voters believe they are better off today than when Biden took office in 2021. But the new FT Michigan Ross Business School survey also showed that Harris may be able to distance herself from Biden on economic issues. Fully 60% of those surveyed said that she should either break completely from the president's economic platform or make major changes to his platform. And she's already started to articulate some of her economic policy. Recently, she said that she did not want to tax tips for service and restaurant workers. And Trump took to his social media platform to call her a copycat because he had earlier suggested the same proposal.
Right, and of course, these polls are surely a relief for the Democratic Party, but still, many voters over in the U.S. believe, Trump will do a better job revitalizing the economy. Is that so?
Right. Underlying economic unease among the electorate could still benefit Trump, who, during his nationally televised press conference last Thursday, continued to criticize the Biden administration for its record on inflation. And of course, he's going to continue to tie Vice President Harris to the Biden record. Just 1 in 4 registered voters rated economic conditions as either excellent or good, and 42% said they would be much or somewhat better off if Trump spent another 4 years in the White House. But just 33% said they would be much or somewhat better off under a Harris presidency. Now, University of Michigan Business School professor Eric Gordon said this poll is good news for previously anxious Democrats, but their worries aren't over because voters still see themselves better off with Trump as president, and most voters think of their interests first and grand policy questions second.
And Harris is set to formally accept the Democratic Party's nomination at the convention, taking place in Chicago next week. What to expect here?
Yes, Harris will be the first Black woman and Indian American in the U.S. in U.S. history to secure a major party's presidential nomination, and she will formally accept the Democratic Party's nomination at the convention in a speech Thursday night. The party is expecting an estimated 50,000 visitors to the so-called Windy City. And this is the first time the convention will be held in Chicago since 1996, when former President Bill Clinton was nominated for his second term. Now, protests are expected during the Democratic convention in Chicago. The largest protests will likely take place on the first and last days of the convention, though several others have been announced. An umbrella group of organizations on the left, the Coalition to March on the DNC, organized marches on both of the days, largely focusing on Israel's war in Gaza and many Democrats supported it. So we might see a renewal of some of those protests that were on college campuses, only on a bigger scale. But it's so important to note that there is a wide security perimeter in Chicago, like there was for the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. And that convention drew far less protesters than analysts had expected.
Right. And on top of that, what's notable is that some prominent Democratic figures are set to deliver speeches at the convention in Chicago, namely President Joe Biden and former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. Let's talk about that.
Right, that's right. Current President Joe Biden and former Presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton have been confirmed as speakers at the convention. Biden, Hillary Clinton, and Barack Obama were the Democratic candidates in the last 3 presidential elections, 2020, 2016, and 2012. And Bill Clinton and former President Clinton and former President Obama remain 2 of the Democratic Party's most popular figures. A source said that former President Jimmy Carter's grandson, Jason Carter, is also confirmed to be speaking on behalf of his grandfather, who is ailing and in hospice care, but is still with us.
Right. And Chris, before I let you go, another interesting development this week, Trump reportedly using a slur against Harris in private conversations. What is this all about?
Right. Former U.S. President Donald Trump reportedly has been in a foul mood over the past few weeks because of the surge in Vice President Kamala Harris's support and her rising poll numbers. And he has reportedly referred to her as a bitch on multiple occasions in private, according to a report by the New York Times. Now, the report is based on 2 sources who claim to have heard Trump make these remarks during different instances. Now, Trump campaign spokesperson Stephen Chung denied these allegations, asserting this is not language President Trump has used to describe Kamala, and that it's not how the campaign would characterize her. But Trump has a long history of attacking particularly female rivals and critics in very personal terms, usually describing them as mentally unstable or worse. He reportedly called Angela Merkel, the former German chancellor, also a bitch in front of officials in his own administration while he was president, according to the book I Alone Can Fix It, which was written by the Washington Post journalists Carol Leonig and Philip Brucker. And Trump's use of the phrase was later confirmed to the New York Times. So
all right, Chris, thanks for the coverage. All right, thank you. Thank you, we appreciate it.
See you again soon.
The Webtune, South Korea's cultural phenomenon crisscrossing into multiple media forms, such as hit television series and dramas. It now faces an evolution of sorts with the AI boom. Our Moon Hae-ryun files this report.
Since their emergence some 2 decades ago, South Korean webtoons have rapidly evolved over the years. As the name suggests, webtoons are digital comics that can be scrolled through in the palm of the reader's hand on a smartphone device. Easy accessibility and the wide scope of content have drawn in younger generations around the world.
So I think that's definitely how Webtoon has become so popular here in the West, and how people just started to become more open to different kinds of platforms and different kinds of storytelling.
Now, South Korean webtoon companies have been tasked with integrating the latest technology boom into the scene for the tech-savvy audience: artificial intelligence. Naver's Webtune introduced a toon filter last year, turning user photos into webtoon-style art, generating over 90 million images globally. Recently, it added AI-driven features like character chat and Webtune caricature to its mobile app for even more personalized experiences.
By integrating AI technology with IP, we hope that fans will be able to immerse themselves in webtoons beyond just reading. They can become participants in the story.
Character chat enables users to converse with their favorite webtoon characters through representative AI chatbots, And a month since its debut, more than 1 million users have accessed the service. Webtoon Caricature is an elevated version of the former Toon Filter service that kicked off in July. Anyone can become a Webtoon character with this latest AI service. Just snap a selfie and wait for the image to load. Currently, these services are provided only on the domestic platform, but Naver could be expanding to its global audience due to the popularity of its immersive AI services. Kakao Webtoon, on the other hand, is using AI algorithms through its Helix curation service to recommend users to other webtoons after analyzing their purchase and reading history. But with the increasing usage of AI in the webtoon industry, creators say that there is a need for more concrete guidelines and laws.
If regulations and guidelines for generative AI are more firmly established as legal regulations, I think authors can use AI more actively and integrate it into their work.
The use of generative AI is fast becoming a global issue across many media forms. How South Korean webtoons will continue to draw in readers and adapt to the changing AI landscape remains to be seen. 문혜련, Arirang News.
Good morning. I'm Kim Seong, and this is The World Now. We begin in Greece, where thousands of people have been evacuated as large wildfires that began on Sunday reached the suburbs of the capital Athens, with some homes and properties in northeastern parts of the city on fire, including a school. The worst fire in Greece this year overwhelmed the evacuated town of Vrillisia, just 10 kilometers from Athens on Monday, with flames burning as high as 25 meters after it had torched forests, houses and cars and resulted in several hospitals being evacuated on its way from its origin in the northeast. The Greek Fire Service said that while there is no longer an active fire front, many hotspots remain in the Mount Penteli and Lake Marathon area, adding that conditions for new fires will remain at dangerous levels for the coming days. More than 700 firefighters, as well as almost 200 fire trucks and 35 aircraft, continue to battle the fast-moving wildfires on Monday. A human chain of volunteer firefighters, police officers and citizens also joined efforts to put out the fires, some even resorting to using tree branches. International help is expected to arrive in the coming days in the form of firefighters and equipment from countries including France, the Czech Republic, Canada, Italy and Spain. Now, talks to end Sudan's 15-month-long civil war between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces will move forward in Geneva on Wednesday. That's according to U.S. Special Envoy Tom Perriello. With the United Nations warning of a humanitarian cataclysmic breaking point in Sudan, the talks are the first major effort in months to get the two warring sides to sit together. The U.S. last month invited the two sides to hold ceasefire talks in Geneva, co-hosted by Saudi Arabia and including Egypt and the UAE, over a year after fighting broke out. While the paramilitary rapid support forces agreed to join the talks, Sudan's military leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, said last month his side would not participate, saying, "We will not retreat, we will not surrender, and we will not negotiate." The war began when the RSF, which now controls large areas of Sudan, including the capital Khartoum, clashed with the army over plans to integrate their forces. The Italian Coast Guard and Spanish NGO Open Arms rescued over 100 migrants from the Mediterranean Sea on Monday off the southern coast of the Italian island Lampedusa. Open Arms rescue boat reached migrants drifting on a wooden boat and provided them with life jackets before Italian Coast Guard vessels took the migrants to Lampedusa. A search and rescue coordinator from Open Arms said 110 migrants, including 6 women, 4 children and 2 elderly men, and a corpse were found in the double-decked boat. NGO Open Arms said that the migrants are of Palestinian, Syrian and Egyptian origin, among others. Now moving over to the U.S., where a magnitude 4.4 earthquake struck the Los Angeles area on Monday. The earthquake had a preliminary epicenter at El Sereno, a Los Angeles neighborhood close to the famous Hollywood sign. It struck at around 12:20 p.m. local time, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Now, according to the USGS, the strongest shaking was considered moderate, staying at level 5 on the modified Mercalli intensity scale, where the shake can be felt by almost everyone and overturn unstable objects. While the earthquake busted a water pipe at Pasadena City Hall, the Los Angeles Fire Department said there are currently no initial reports of structural damage or injuries. The earthquake was first estimated as a 4.7 magnitude, but was later downgraded to a 4.4 magnitude.
Good morning. Sweltering temperatures continue to bake much of Korea, and heat wave warnings remain in place with temperatures forecast to go up as high as yesterday. And it is hard to imagine living without an air conditioner, but after over 3 months with it day and night, many are complaining of headaches, dehydration, and muscle stiffness. Here are some ways to use air conditioning wisely. Remember to ventilate every hour for 5 to 10 minutes. Meanwhile, we are looking at a chance of passing rain in western parts of Korea. Rain could lash down 30 millimeters an hour to the western parts of Korea with thunderstorms. And this afternoon, Seoul and Gwangju getting up to 35 degrees. Daegu will be topping out at 34 degrees. With that in mind, here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. Arirang News will be back at noon Korea time.